How to save money on telephone service by switching to Voice over Internet Protocol, VOIP. This will convert a cost of perhaps $35 to $50 a month to less than $10 a month. You can also get limited, almost free mobile phone service by using this same principle. You probably will not have to sign a contract, and this is not an advertisement. I mention specific companies only from my personal experience and not because I have any reason to endorse them. Part 1. The structure of telephone service. Plain ordinary telephone services have a simple structure. You pay the telephone company, and the telephone jacks in your living quarters are supplied with a live connection, so you can plug in a telephone and make and receive calls. You are not responsible for any wiring beyond the jack or beyond the network interface box. If the jack doesn't work, you can call for repairs, and the telephone company will send someone around to make the repairs. Maybe you have to pay for them, and maybe you don't, but you don't need any technical skill. The advantages of plain ordinary telephone service include that it is easy to understand, it's familiar and traditional, so there isn't anything new that has to be learned, and it's easy to use. You plug in your telephones, you use them, you pay the bill. No technical hassles. So what's wrong with plain ordinary telephone service? 1, it's expensive, and 2, it's limited in what it can do for you relative to modern voice over Internet protocol services. If you have and pay for high-speed Internet service already, then you can route your telephone service through the Internet, not through the telephone company wiring, and save money. You can do this even if you use DSL for your Internet service. Many telephone companies will let you use DSL through their telephone lines without having a telephone number also. Here's how it works. You sign up with a voice over Internet provider and pay a monthly fee, which sometimes and not always varies with how much you use the telephone. Look at the specific plan offered by the provider. To find such a provider, type VOIP into your favorite search engine, do a search, and see what comes up. You will have several options. Having done so, you buy an electronic device to connect to the Internet, and you plug your telephone into it. Yes, you can use ordinary telephones for this purpose, but in general, old-fashioned rotary phones will not work without a device to convert the dial signal to tone signal. Unless you have an antique telephone of sentimental value, I do not recommend this option. When working on the house wiring, you can even disconnect the ordinary telephone line that connects your living quarters to the street, then connect your device to one wall telephone jack in one room. This process connects the built-in wiring in your living quarters to your new telephone service. Then you have wired telephone service in every room that has a telephone jack, and a telephone plugged into the telephone jack will work exactly as it would if you had plain ordinary telephone service. Here's the catch. Unless you get the device from the service provider, it will need to be programmed to connect to the service provider and to support your own telephone number or numbers. Remember, when you buy the device is made generically and is not made to be dedicated to one or another provider, and it also will not come with your telephone number built in unless you have a very special arrangement with providers who offer that kind of service. I don't recommend it. Number 2, the programming can be extremely technical. If you are not computer savvy, try to get someone who is to help program your device. To get a pre-programmed device, or get one that you have to program yourself? That is the question. If it's pre-programmed and offered by the provider, then you may be unable to change voice over Internet protocol providers later, and the monthly cost for the service you get can be high. This is analogous to locked mobile phones or contracts that cost money to get out of. There is a higher fee than is strictly necessary. What I recommend is doing the programming yourself on the device that you choose, or hiring a computer software expert to do it for you. I have found when I use CallCentric that its service is outstanding, and even though I am computer savvy and pretty good with this sort of thing, I had to go back and forth with them several times. Their patience seems to be infinite, and I got it done. So if you persist and you have that kind of technical mind, I think you can do it too. Here is a look at the back of my device. This is an OBI 202, which I happen to like. There are other devices, and I'm sorry that the picture is a little bit out of focus. From left to right, there's phone jack 1, phone jack 2. This model does support 2 telephone lines, a USB jack, which is not relevant in this context, LAN jack, a local access network, so that if you have only one computer and no router, you can plug your computer into that jack. I don't use it. The next one is the internet jack. You connect an Ethernet port between that and your router, and DC power in. When you have finished, you have an arrangement with a voice-over internet provider, a device, the device connected to the internet, and your phone plugged into the device, or the device is plugged into one wall jack and your phone's plugged into various wall jacks also. Yes, you can send and receive faxes. You may need to tinker with the speed of the fax machine, but in my experience that is not necessary. An additional benefit. At least one such voice-over internet provider, I'm thinking about my own favorite, CallCentric, in 2017. It offers outstanding algorithms for incoming calls, including selective route to voicemail, so some telephone numbers go straight to voicemail and some ring through for you, forwarding of calls from some numbers and not others to numbers of your choice, so that some calls get forwarded and others do not, receiving faxes from some or all numbers as PDFs that you can later log into the service and download, and not tying up your telephone line, and others. Part 3. The almost free mobile phone. The voice-over internet does not care if the phone is connected through your device that I showed you, or if it is connected some other way. That is where C-SIP Simple comes in. It is a free, no advertising app for Android devices. This is true in early 2017. I hope that the app does not change from that date. Here's how to use C-SIP Simple. Put it on your Android device, from the Google Play Store probably. The best function is if you put it on a mobile phone, even if its built-in phone number no longer works on that phone, or if it is a GSM phone with no SIM card. But it will work on a tablet that is not designed to have a carrier. C-SIP Simple does not work in Mac products, including the iPhone. Other apps may exist that have essentially identical functions. I have to admit I am not familiar with them. First, download C-SIP Simple to your Android device. Then, configure it to connect to your voice-over internet service and your telephone number. You can now make calls with your Android device using your voice-over internet service and not your mobile phone carrier if in fact you still have one. Yes, there are a few things wrong with this setup. 1. C-SIP Simple requires for the mobile phone a data connection, and unless you are using a true mobile phone data plan, which you don't really need in this context, you're going to need Wi-Fi for this to work. 2. If the device that has C-SIP Simple is not intended to be a phone, then you will need to dial 1, then area code, then 7-digit number whenever you call out, including for mobile phones. 3. You can't send or receive text messages. unless the VOIP service provider offers it, and I don't know of any that do right now. 4. You get the same ringtone for every incoming call, unless the device is intended to be a phone and has a list of contacts and separate ringtones. Even this might not work. I have not tested it on various mobile phones with CSIP Simple. So if you want to experiment, go right ahead, but you're on your own. You can, in theory, use CSIP Simple to take over your ordinary phone on voice-over internet connections by using a mobile phone, so you have access to your ordinary phone number to make and receive calls wherever you have Wi-Fi. In theory, if 2 or more devices, for example, a wired-in device and a mobile phone, each try to lay claim to the telephone number, the most recent hooking up is the one that works. My own experience, however, is that this does not work very reliably, so if you want to use your landline phone and then use your mobile phone, unplug the landline Ethernet cord first. That will unfasten the telephone number entirely. Then you run CSIP Simple on your phone, which will then capture the telephone number, and you reverse the procedure later on when you get home. Summary. You can save big money on old-fashioned non-mobile phone service if you have high-speed internet already. You can also save big money on mobile phone service if you are willing to forego mobile phone use where there is no Wi-Fi access. Note, a formally connected mobile phone can always call 911 even if it is not in use by a mobile phone service. For some people, this is enough. If you're driving and you don't want to use the phone while you're driving, which is a good safety thing, and wherever you go that isn't in a car, you have Wi-Fi access, go for it. One last thing. You can usually save your existing phone numbers when you switch to this process. This is called porting, and the voice-over internet providers will explain how to do that. I did this with my mobile phone number and set up the mobile phone with CSIP Simple to have the same number through a voice-over internet service as it had when it was an ordinary cell phone. This works well when I am near Wi-Fi, and the downgrade converted a $65 a month charge to an ordinary cell phone carrier to about $5 a month to the voice-over internet service. This is a big savings. Further information is available on the internet. You can search for VOIP and CSIP Simple, including on YouTube. Watch the upload dates of anything that you see, however. The information, especially the pricing, in reviews, comments, and such, may be obsolete. It's your money. Be sure to save it. Comments are welcome. Please give this video a thumbs up like if you think the video deserves it. I don't upload very often, but when I do, the upload is carefully planned and has something I consider important. No blathering, no schedule. Please subscribe if you wish.